So you were involved in the Battle of Khafji. Am I saying that right? Is it Khafji?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. A lot of people may not know what that is. I know people at First Anglico know what that is, or a lot of Anglico people know what that is. Can you kind of explain what that was, what that battle was, and how it kind of came to be, and then what your guys' role was in that?
Yeah. So the air war, when the air war commenced, um, we kind of changed our role a bit. So we first off, let me back up and let you know that First Anglico, there was an organization in those days called Shrig, right? And Recon Force was in there,
Mm-hmm.
Anglico was in there. We had Com, just to make it an actual unit. We had Com and Intel Battalion in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the like I told you, Third Marines, Ross El Mashab was the closest Marine units, and that was 23 miles away from the border. The first casualties that would occur from the Marine Corps were from Third Marines from 200 millimeter Astro 2 rockets. Um, at that point, because they'd been there just watching and not really doing much, but
Mm-hmm.
then we started slacking them with air, and then they started shooting at us, right? So
Yeah,
what
the
we
shooting
did,
war finally kicked off.
yeah, but it was still no one was crossing the border, nobody was doing anything like that. We were. I can probably send you a video of a good friend of mine, Randy Hale, because he was on. They've got a video of him, and they show them out there shooting back and forth. And what happens is, so we would start to rotate. There would be us, SF, and SEALs all along what looked like little Alamos all along the border,
Mm-hmm.
and basically ROPs. And I think that we got kind of complacent, and I don't mean we as an American force, because we were shooting at them a lot and they weren't really doing a whole lot back to us. So um, we didn't read the signs very well. And as a matter of fact, I was supposed to rotate up, but they extended LZ's team, Lieutenant Lang and LZ, and a guy named John Courtney and a few others. They were going to stay up there. I was supposed to do the next rotation, but they extended them a couple days. And I actually think that was probably a smart thing because those guys had already been up there like a week or something.
Mm-hmm.
And LZ had a mission, and he could probably tell you better than me, but he ran a mission on some guys, and when he dropped, he had like 2 or 3 hours of secondaries, and he reported it.
Oh,
You
really?
know, yeah. So basically, what they were starting to do was they were hoarding the ammo. They're storing ammo and pre-positioning. He
Mm-hmm.
said he had the Mule night sight up there, and he said he was seeing lots of movement at night, lots of movement. There was a lot of stuff going on, and he was reporting it. I mean, other people were reporting similar observations, and we dropped the ball. We didn't realize what was about to happen to us. Um, the night that it happened, I had come on watch, and we'd been hearing the whole time. You got to remember, we got there in August. Uh, the other thing that had happened is when the right before the battle kicked off, about a month early, they evacuated the city. That created some other situations, which I can get into in a second. But so they evacuated the city, and Shrig had like some C2 nodes, advanced C2 nodes, forward nodes in the city itself. Um, the night that it happened uh, was a full moon, and we'd been hearing this is what they do all the time because the full moon in that part of the world it looks like daytime when the full
Mm-hmm.
moon's out. And we were told you got to watch the full moon. That's one of Saddam's favorite things to do in the Iran-Iraq war was to attack at night on the full moon. And the night that it happened, um, that and all we knew is we lost comm. We lost comm, and then we started getting all these weird reports. I, you know, I, I tried to reach them. We were supposed to try and reach them like every 30 minutes. Make sure they got the radio check going and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. You know, three most of the way into my watch, I went and I woke up the team chief and I said, "Hey, I haven't heard anything from anybody in hours. I don't know what's happening here. And he got on. He ended up contacting the brigade platoon, and hey, we got reports that they know shit are attacking. Later we would find out I did not see LZ for 10 hours, and the members of that team. And I will tell you that probably not since the Easter offensive had American units ever been overrun like that.
Mm-hmm.
It had been a long time. And because there were no real forces. Ras al-Mashab was the closest place that we had 3rd Marines. So all of the actual forces, you had a screening force up there. You had a bunch of anti-tank units from the Sang with tow missiles and whatnot up there, and they would do good work. Luckily, there was supposed to be a 3-division attack on us, but it started way out to the west with LAR.
Mm-hmm.
They had blunted an attack. That's actually where the first rounds were fired, was out to the west. And they blunted the attack, and then air ate them up. Coming out of the El Wafra Forest was another division that was supposed to hit us. The Air Force picked them up, and really pretty much them before they could get across the border. It was kind of a disjointed attack that we got lucky too, because only one brigade out of the 5th Mech division, that we would, 1st Anglico would fight the 5th Mech 3 times. We fight them there at Khafji, we fight them at the 2nd Belt of Obstacles, and we fight them at the airport. So it was a unit that and they got pretty much annihilated out trying to escape from Kuwait City, but they would fight again against the Kurds like a year later, so they weren't totally wiped out. But only one brigade initially kicked off the attack, and this is going to sound funny, but LZ told me that he grabbed the AT-4. What you need to know is the AT-4 was relatively new,
mm-hmm.
and most people didn't know how to, how to undo all the safes that were on the system. So he picked it up, couldn't shoot it, and if you ask him about it, he'll say his one act of defiance is he put an HEPD round in his 203 and shot it at the tank that were coming at him. He Lieutenant Lang had told the reconnaissance units, "Hey, look, there's a drop off on the other side. We can't really see it." So there was a reserve recon unit out of Alabama, and they told him, "Hey, can you push a guy forward with a radio so that they can notify us if things happen?" They pushed a guy out there, but he didn't have a radio to notify, because it was a SEAL team, a recon team, a 1st Anglico team going towards the thing. And LZ said he could see out towards the shore that there was a fight going on with the SEALs, right? And then they saw the guy from recon running across. It was about a 200-yard open area, and they couldn't hear what he was screaming. By the time they could hear what he was screaming, literally an entire company of tanks were coming up over the berm, and 200 yards isn't that far. A lot of people criticize them for some of losing their crypto, but I think that the
Hold on, you're breaking up a little bit.
The lives of the rest of that team.
Hold on, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't want to lose any of this. Okay. You said the last thing I heard was some people criticized them for losing their crypto.
Yeah, and a lot of equipment. Because of the speed of the attack, they were able to get their weapons and get the Marines out of there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their other equipment was left in place. So much so that, and this is another interesting story, it changed all the fills across the entire theater, because they had both their HF. In those days, it was a tape, so we had both HF and VHF. They lost all their gear, so instantly all the crypto across the theater had to change. Right?
So let me make sure I got this right. You guys everybody's in their positions, along the line, the different elements, SEALs and you guys and everything. And then you push out a recon guy who's supposed to have a radio, doesn't have a radio. You push him out to cover a blind spot, basically. And then he sees you said a company worth of tanks that come up over the hilltop. And then all the guys just grab like their weapons and whatever's basically on them and fall back, rather than, obviously you don't have time to.
Well, no, they like I said, LZ tried to engage with an AT4,
Yeah.
And
And
everyone
it's
was
203
trying to
rounds.
engage with something.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was trying to engage,
Oh,
but
okay.
it was the call. I mean, you're talking about light units with small arms,
Yeah.
really, with no way to fight tanks. It was
Yeah.
a tank. It was a tank company coming at them. So, I think the actions of Lieutenant Lang and LZ saved the lives of the Marines that they were with. They pulled them back. They literally were driving, being shot at by tank rounds and landing within 10 to 5 meters of the damn Humvee.
That's
So
crazy.
what and that we didn't have up armored Humvee in those days. So
Yeah.
this is a regular, you know, plastic canvas Humvee, and these guys are running for their lives. You know, um, LZ would do some amazing things that night. I feel very fortunate to call him my friend, uh, because he is very, 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 when the shit hits the fan, he does what needs to happen. So, that night he almost got left behind that night.
That'd be no good.
They pulled back to a safe house, and the Iraqis kept coming, and he was ordered to go in time. And if you see, there's a really famous video of the Battle of Khafji, and you see a Hellfire missile going through this tower, right? If you see, it's one when you saw it, you see before that happens. That actually happens during the counterattack. But what ends up happening is LZ is ordered to go up there and use that as an OP, but they leave it. They leave it, and or no, I got that wrong. The captain went up and that totally screwed that story up. The captain went up there to make that the OP, and they leave him, but LZ realizes that the captain's been left up in the tower. So LZ's the one that goes back to get him. He doesn't know that everyone's left him. And by the time they're coming down, again, here's a tank rolling down the street firing at them. He saved the captain's life that night, by going back for him.
That's
And
crazy, man. Running from tanks on multiple occasions does not sound like a fun time.
I will tell you, when I saw them for the first time, um, it's fear is contagious, but the look that they had on their face, you could tell. First off, they hadn't had sleep in probably 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Second off, they'd been running for their lives with no communication. We didn't know where they were. They didn't know what was going on. We eventually got communications with the forward element, there. We had like a forward salt element that we'd push forward up there that was with the Shrig forward headquarters. And there were a lot of individual actions on teams. Captain Kleinsmith, later on Lieutenant Colonel Kleinsmith's team, did some amazing work up there as well. There's easily a dozen guys that I could name that did amazing things and managed to. We were lucky we didn't lose anybody.
Yeah.
We were seriously lucky because we were outmatched that night.
Mm-hmm.
We just did not have the one. We didn't have the SA. Two, we didn't have the type of forces in place that could have actually done much.
Mm-hmm.
The Saudi, I think they got 13. They killed 13 tanks that night with their toes.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So they did good work. There's a lot of things that went on that night. The counterattack. Well, basically, the counterattack, because this was Saudi Arabia, they wanted the Arabs to do the counterattack and push them out.
Mm-hmm.
So the Arabs, supported by 3rd Marines, is basically what happened. 3rd Marines, that would be the first time I would ever be in combat, and it was a sobering moment, in the fact that it was the training that took over. And I don't think we slept but 3 to 4 hours over the next 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We would be the salt. I was in the salt that ran it. So we pushed up to the Khafji Cafe, and this was before like Blue Force Tracker or any of that garbage. That's why Blue Force Tracker, we had to figure out, we had like 13 teams running in and around, and all I could do was get pause reps.
Yeah, your paper.
Where's the last play?
Plotting on a paper map.
And I will tell you, again, I don't want to say bad things about people. That's one thing I don't get into. But, that trapped reconnaissance team up there were specifically told by our commander, hey, that's a Shrig area. You guys don't go up there. You have no business being up there. They were trapped because we didn't know they were up there. When we evacuated the city, they were up there and they'd been surrounded by Iraqis. I'm sitting there in those days. The Tar Harnet, it was a Tar Harnet then, there was no, what do you want to call it? There was no crypto on it. It was an uncovered net.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear this guy, the CO actually, Colonel Grubb was in our position because we're about to kick off the counterattack. And I said, hey, I think I got a reconnaissance team from 3rd Marines in the city. And he goes, what? So we had no clue because that was the first time we'd gotten in contact with him. So he contacted a few folks. We ended up putting an RFA around him. And then
a restricted fire area for those that don't know.
Yeah. We ended up it was the Sang and the Qataris that would do the counterattack on that, and the Anglico teams. I mean, the bulk of what happened were done primarily by the Anglico teams to drive those forces out.
Okay.
Along with the air, because we're as far as the fire support side of it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
3rd Marines would, and here's the other thing: 3rd Marines would only ever go up to the fence line of the city. It was the Anglico forces that went into the city, primarily 1st and guys from 3rd. Teams from 3rd and 1st were the guys that would go into the city.
So where was this recon team? Like, I think I've heard about them before, right? They were trapped on a rooftop, and like the Iraqis didn't know they were there, so they like survived on a rooftop for like 2 days or something like that.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not going to say a lot of bad stuff because after the battle, they wanted to take credit for a lot of. I relayed all their missions that they went to the artillery from 112. So they actually only fired 2 missions because I was the one relaying for them to the artillery unit. But it got to the point where as more teams started flooding into the city, I had to keep telling them, hey, you're not going to be allowed to shoot. We've got Anglico teams all over the city, and where you're trying to shoot is in close proximity to where our teams are.
Yeah.
And the other thing, that it was kind of strange because, again, you're not prepared for some of the stuff that happens. I mean, I got informed, hey, there's an arc light strike, and I don't think I got the word out to everybody. 3 B-52s with 150 some odd Mark 82s, and we had a flight of 3.
Oh, Jesus.
Just raked the border to cut off additional forces and from coming down and reinforcing the brigade that was in there.